such a beautiful country. I mean, I think that a lot of times you don't give our country enough credit, and that's one of the things that inspired my mom to do what she did, because again, a lot of the inspiration of this comes from her when she took her old, 67 Plymouth Valiant and took the back seat out of it and decided to travel across the country. And she's like, we have a beautiful country right here in our own backyard. We don't take the time to enjoy it. But man, there's a lot of beauty to see right here in the, United States.
Mr. Clouser.
How you doing, Freddie?
Hey, man, it's cool to have you back. My wife and I are envious of your life, and that's how we're going to start this one. Because for those of you that don't know, Mr. Clouser has done amazing things in the past for Berks County and kids, and that's all awesome. But he sold pretty much all your worldly possessions, including your home, like everything. I went to your sale at your house, bought a couple things.
How are those golf clubs working out, by the way?
Good. I used the driver and I used the putter for sure. And like you filled in, there's like a couple wedges I think you had or something like that. Yeah. So I have like this one Frankenstein kit now.
There you go.
But I still suck at golf. So like, let's just, come on.
Yeah.
Realistic. But yeah, sold all your worldly possessions, including your home, and you bought an RV with your wife, Sandy, and you guys are traveling the country. Since you've been here last, you released an updated version of your book. You have Uke's book that came out, 4 Paws and 6 Wheels Across America, which is awesome. I have all variations of your book, hardcover, softcover, Uke's book, signed, Paws. You put out 1 million podcasts, and you travel the country every day practically. Unless you take a break and stop somewhere. But so, how's it going?
It's going great. I mean, we honestly have no regrets whatsoever. I mean, it is just an incredible lifestyle. We love getting back home, but man, we love just meeting new people and just the experiences. Such a beautiful country. I mean, I think that a lot of times you don't give our country enough credit, that's one of the things that inspired my mom to do what she did, because again, a lot of the inspiration of this comes from her when she took her old, 67 Plymouth Valiant and took the back seat out of it and decided to travel across the country. She had a bunch of friends who just came back from vacations in Europe and the Caribbean and stuff like that, talking about, what wonderful countries they were. And she's like, we have a beautiful country right here in our own backyard. We don't take the time to enjoy it. And I think that's a lot of people. A lot of people, they want to travel abroad. They want to go to Europe. They want to go, which is great. But man, there's a lot of beauty to see right here in the, United States.
Yeah, I feel like, I think Europe for me, the reason why I want to go to Europe and all those places is because, the culture is different. It's just a different culture, different language, accents. Yeah. Food. That's why I want to go to Europe, to see all those kinds of things. And plus it's old. Like, we're not that old. Yeah. In the grand scheme of Jesus, everything, civilization, we're 200 years old and change. Yeah. And you got castles that are older than the United States, on this planet. But Jill and I, bought the travel trailer. Still haven't taken it out yet. We have it though. I plan on doing something with it. I have to. I was afraid at first. So I'm like, crap. The guy that put it on our campground, did it with one hand backing up, and I'm like, dude, how am I going to get this thing out, But we're looking forward to taking it out. And hopefully, I know Jill wants to get to your status, man. At some point, she, we talk about it now, and she gets RV Magazine every month. She's in all these groups. She was so excited because we fixed our hot water a few weeks ago. Yeah. She bought this piece off of Amazon. She's like, we did it ourselves. High five me. So she's raring to go, man. So I can only, I feel like there's I have 1 million questions yet. Now you're in front of me. I'm like, I don't have any questions. Because I'm like, oh yeah, Dan's coming on. And we're going to talk about so many awesome things and what you've done. So give me something.
I think, for you, as you guys kind of, ease into making this transition at some point. Like, again, I tell people all the time, I never drove an RV before the day we drove ours off the lot, so I didn't know what a black tank was or a gray tank or any of that sort of stuff. I'm not, the handiest guy in the world. Matter of fact, probably the exact opposite. But yet, a year ago, with the help of some other full-time RVers, I changed out the water pump on our RV, which was cool because they didn't do it for me. Like, they had me do the work, but we're making sure I didn't totally screw it up as well.
Good.
Which again, I would have never thought that would be something that I would ever do, is change out my own water pump on the RV. And YouTube is a great resource.
Hell yeah.
It really is. And there's a lot of books out there for just different things to do. Sandy and I haven't done it yet, but we want to do work camping at some point, where you go into campground and you basically get your site covered for, whatever, 2-3 months, and you're doing odd jobs, maybe cleaning out a bathroom, cutting the grass, whatever the case is. And, more for the experience than anything else, and just, you talked about the different cultures of Europe. Like, we've got different cultures right here in the U.S. too. Yeah. Like, it's,
that's true. You go
Texas
south,
is
totally
completely different than, Pennsylvania, Louisiana, completely different. But so cool in their own way,
Yeah.
And that's been the coolest thing for us, is just to experience that. We're actually going to Canada. We're heading up to Niagara Falls, within the next couple of days. That'll be our first time north of the border.
Right on.
And then next year around this time, we'll be in Alaska. And that we're really looking forward to, because it's going to be a caravan of about 10 to 12 other full-time RVers.
Wow.
So that'll be cool just to do it as a group. We're leaving from Great Falls, Montana, and heading up. And, I'm just excited to, go outside at midnight and have it daylight yet in Alaska. Alaska was one of the places my mom talked about the most when she did her trip.
So she went to Alaska.
Yeah.
How long was she there for?
She was there a couple months. Not sure exactly, but at least 2 months.
Wow.
So yes, I'm really looking forward to that. And then, you and I are both baseball guys, so I definitely want to get to the Midnight Sun baseball game in Fairbanks, which will be super, super cool.
You have to.
Yeah.
There's no.
So, it's such an incredible lifestyle, and to hear, people like you say, oh, you guys are inspiring us to do this at some point, is kind of mind blowing, because obviously with the podcast and the books and stuff, part of that is you want to inspire people.
Yeah.
But you never know if you do.
Yeah, you do.
So when you hear it, it's like, that's pretty cool. But yeah, it's just such an incredible lifestyle. I mean, the people we've met, whether other full timers, and I know you're just in a campground right now, but even that's just, there's a different type of person.
Yes,
it's like
we've seen
more
it.
of a salt to the earth type.
Yes, we've seen it already. We love it.
Yeah, and it's really cool. And that was something that I don't know if, I guess I didn't expect it. I just didn't know. I just didn't know what we were getting into, and people were willing to help you. If you had trouble, changing that part out that you and Jill were changing out, there'd have been a dozen people, if they were walking by, would have like, hey, you need a hand? You need some help with that? And
Absolutely.
They're just so willing to help out with stuff. And it kind of reminds me of yesteryear almost, where a time gone by where, my parents used to send me over to our neighbor's house for a stick of butter because we were out of butter or something, or vice versa. They'd come over for a cup of sugar or something like that. And that stuff's all gone now, but yet in the RV community, it's there. We were in Vermont, one of our first trips, and actually, I'm sorry, it was New Hampshire, right across the Vermont border. And we were in a campground, and the couple next to us knew that we didn't have a tow vehicle. So we don't tow a vehicle, we just have the RV. And they were going into town, and they came over and knocked on our door, and we're like, hey, we're going into town. We see you guys don't have a tow vehicle. Do you need anything? And we did, actually. We needed milk and eggs or just some little stuff that we didn't get on the way in because Sandy was sleeping. I didn't want to wake her up, so we didn't stop at a grocery store like we'll normally do because we thought that the camp store would be open. Unbeknownst to us, it wasn't posted on their website that it was still kind of, it was the end of 2020, fall 2020, so it was still COVID, so there was no camp store, no nothing, because we were all in there. We don't have milk, we don't have the basics, and this couple came by and like, hey, and sure, we'll pick it up for you.
That's awesome.
Again, just we didn't ask them like they asked us, just because they saw we didn't have a tow vehicle. They thought, hey, maybe these people could use something from in town, and we did.
Amazing. It's definitely a different culture. The second, like we had our campground, and we were like, all right, well, we're here now, and we're part of this community, and what goes on, I don't know. Our neighbors next to us, Eileen, and I forget her husband's name. I only met him once, but I met him once, and he just started talking to me about things, and like he kind of knew it was a noob. He's like, you're gonna want to get that, like, you might want to get tire covers since you're gonna keep it in that same exact spot, and you're gonna want to check this, and you're gonna want to check that, and if you need help with this, and he started teaching me about, like, when you start towing that thing, everything's backwards, right? And I'm like, I think I read that somewhere, but he automatically was just cool, But then we went to the campground this past weekend, and we saw a sign in their spot, like they're selling their stuff. So, I'm like, it's kind of a bummer. But then I'm like, life changes, Maybe people just, who knows? Maybe they just want to do something else, and that's cool. Because you only get one trip around this rock, man. So
that's right.
You better make it count. But what has been, I guess for me, what's been your favorite spot in the States?
We get that question so often.
How do you expect not to get asked that question?
Like we can't answer it. Like we just, I can't name like just one spot. It's been amazing. I mean, North Dakota blew us away. I mean, totally exceeded our expectations, as did Kentucky. Just didn't expect either of those states to be, as cool as they were.
Why was it special?
I mean, North Dakota, the Badlands of North Dakota are super, super cool. And again, just, the South Dakota Badlands are cool around Badlands National Park, but like there's just something different about the North Dakota Badlands and, like Theodore Roosevelt National Park. The little town of Medora that we stayed in, and one of the towns that we stayed in North Dakota, was just super cool. I mean, it's basically 6 blocks by 6 blocks. It makes West Reading look like a metropolis, and it was just such a cool little town with just little shops and, just it's hard to put it into words, but it was just so cool. I mean, we went walking through the town in the evening, and again, in, quote unquote downtown, at least 4 different occasions, a deer just walks in front of us. There's a deer laying in somebody's front yard, just laying there hanging out. There were like 3 deer in a parking lot next to a bus, like just hanging out. And it was just wild. Harper's Ferry, West Virginia, again, completely exceeded our expectations. And, same thing, tiny little town. We're actually going back there this summer in July. We'll go to the same spot we were in for about 4 or 5 days because we liked it so much. And we were there in late March, so things hadn't been quite completely geared up and ready to go, so we want to kind of see it in full bloom, so to speak.
Yeah.
And then, in Kentucky, Mammoth Cave National Park, we stayed there like 3 days, but again, totally blew us away. Didn't know what to expect, but the trails were incredible. The caves themselves, I mean, there's 420 miles of underground caverns in that park. And at some point, we'd taken a couple different cave tours, and one we were on earlier in the day, we were walking through the campground later that day, and we see a sign that says, 250 feet below you is the end of Gothic Avenue, which is the cave we had just toured earlier in the day. And again, that just kind of like put it into like, wow, we were this far out, from where the mouth of the cave was. And it's like 250 feet below where we're standing. Like it was just, wow, wild, And there's just, we we've really enjoyed getting out on hikes and in nature, and a lot of that's because of Uke. So there are some great trails at Mammoth Cave, great trails in Harper's Ferry, Medora, same thing. I mean, it's hard to pinpoint one. I mean, Galveston, Texas, we love. We'll actually be in Galveston next year in February for an entire month. Really probably one of our longest stays. Well, it will be our longest stay in a campground. I mean, normally if we're anywhere for a month, it's at my aunt's house in Florida or at our nephew's house up here in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
So that'll be a lot of fun. But yeah, you can't just like say one spot because there's so many. And the minute you think of five, you think of five more that were just as cool.
It's so true, man. Because Jill and I, we go and we see these places. We've been to. I mean, just as recently, like Charleston and Myrtle Beach and St. Louis, and like just all these places we go to. And we always take photos of everything, right? Because that's what you do. You take photos because you're somewhere, right? And you take a photo and you look at it and you're just like, there's no photo that could be taken that would ever compare to actually getting off your butt and going to this place.
Yeah.
And that I've realized, man. Like, I mean, even Charleston. We were talking about Charleston on a Fred Talk Flow today, and food's great, nice, cute little place. But even seeing where slavery existed, in Charleston, like. I was telling McCookie before, because I feel like I'm talking to McCookie when I'm doing these Fred Talks flows. Is like you always know about everything. So like I knew slavery existed. You knew Mount Rushmore was where it's at, and you know all these things. But it's almost like it doesn't exist, or did it really happen until you show up to these places and see it? And it's so crucial that I think people travel. And especially in the U.S., like you're right, the U.S. is huge. It's a continent practically, minus Canada and Mexico.
Yep.
It's its own continent. And, it's just there's just so much out there. And we've only scratched the surface. We've only been to a few places, man. And how many places? Wait, first of all, how long have you been on the road for now?
August of 2020 is when we started, so we're going on 3 years.
3 years in August.
Yeah, we've been to 39 different states so far.
Next question.
We will we'll add Missouri, Kansas, Colorado, and Nebraska this summer. I'm doing a little book tour out in Colorado, so we'll hit those states on the way out and the way back. So yeah, we're looking forward to Missouri, seeing the Arch in St. Louis, and
it's cool, man.
Going. We'll probably swing down into Branson for a little bit, and back up into Kansas City. Want to check out the Negro League
Museum.
That's what
I want to do
for sure. We were at the when we were in Kentucky, we went to the Louisville Slugger Museum, which was super cool. And honestly, Sandy found that fascinating too. And she's not the baseball girl like I'm the baseball guy.
Yeah.
But she was pleasantly surprised at how cool that was, and really being able to see how a bat's made. And it was stuff that I had seen before, obviously, with all my years in baseball, but it was still really, really cool. And just Louisville in and of itself is just a really cool little town. There was an air show going on the day we were there, so we kind of got
nice.
free shots of seeing a stealth bomber fly by and stuff like that.
Those
so
things are cool.
It was pretty cool for sure.
Yeah, we're hitting Boston this year finally,
yes.
Fenway for a game.
Yeah,
I've been to Boston multiple times with Jill, with my parents, and always did the tour because I always missed them, or it was like winter.
Right.
So finally Jill hooked it up. We're going to watch the Mets play the Red Sox, and I'm super looking forward to that. Since you're in front of me, is there a specific place I should be sitting at Fenway?
I mean, hopefully you don't have any of the obstructed view seats.
So no obstructed views.
Literally right behind a pole. Like, it's really an obstructed view.
Yeah.
Again, the place was built in 1912.
1912. Yeah.
But I mean, I've had monster seats. I've had bleacher seats. I've had Coca-Cola pavilion seats. I actually sat in Kevin Youkilis's season tickets one time, right behind John Lester's wife, friend and I, because when he used to do his He still has the charity Uke's Kids.
Yeah.
But when he was in Boston, he'd do an annual fundraiser, and we'd always go up. And one of his fundraisers for the foundation specifically was selling his season tickets. And it was always a set of 4, so you could either buy 2 or all 4. And basically he would sell them for double the price. So half of that money was going to the foundation. So we were helping a good cause, but that was pretty cool because we were 4 rows behind home plate.
Whoa.
And again, Lester was pitching, and we're just literally sitting behind Lester's wife and baby.
Wow.
It was a pretty cool experience. So, I mean, there's not a bad seat in the house unless you're in one of those obstructed view ones where, again, literally, and one of my friends actually had one of those tickets once, and he was like about the 3rd inning, he just went and watched it on TV in the stadium near one of the bars,
I know that place is surrounded by bars.
Yeah.
No, I'm pretty excited because we did Wrigley in 2018.
I want to do Wrigley. Same with you. I've been there in the winter, driven past it.
Wrigley
I've not seen a game yet.
Energy is different.
Yeah.
I'll put it to you this way. We had so much fun. Jill, at the end of that game, Jill actually asked if we could go again the next day.
Really?
Because Jill's a Sandy when it comes to baseball.
Yeah.
She'll go. She'll support it. But, she probably would choose other things first, and that's okay. And we went again the next night. Same energy. Just like, man, it's just a different beast in there,
Yeah.
And I actually purchased a brick. They sent me an email saying, hey, you can buy a brick. And I don't even have one at Citi Field or anywhere else. And I was like, and I bought that brick with the dates we went to Wrigley because that's how much fun we had, man.
Yeah, and Fenway's similar because they've got, it's basically a carnival going on outside the stadium, which Wrigley is very, very similar to
they have a whole thing now.
Yeah, so there's a completely, you go to Citizens Bank and stuff like that. I mean, there's stuff going on outside the stadium, but again, not like a Wrigley or a Fenway. And even Yankee Stadium or Citi, I mean, it's not that same energy exactly. So, so I think you'll find that Fenway is probably very similar to Wrigley when it comes to that energy around the stadium.
How early do I go?
Early. So if you're talking,
7:05
game.
Right? How early you get there?
I'd be getting there around 4:00, honestly.
4:00 for partying or for like parking or for what?
Well, you're probably not going to park anywhere near Fenway
T.
Park. Yeah, definitely take the T. And that's something that we learned early on in our Boston. No problem. In our Boston travels, we would just stay in a hotel, outskirts of the city, take the T in, or we've stayed in the city as well. It's just a matter of what you're looking to get that weekend.
I just
don't. You're paying 3 times as much for a hotel room in the city as if you stay down in Braintree or something like that.
I've stayed in Braintree. I recognize that name. We've been there a few times. We just never went to a game.
Yeah.
But I really want to I mean, there's so many other parks too. So, I like going to parks multiple times, but the truth of it is like, well, maybe you should get through all the parks first before you start doing doubles, bro.
Right.
So I really want to make it a trip. I know they're playing the Mets all weekend, so I'm probably going to hit 2 games.
Yeah.
At least I have to. Just like Wrigley, we did 2. Want to do 2 in Fenway. So there's no bad seat in the house. Cool. Should I be eating something specific? Should I be going somewhere specific? And this is like it's a trip for Jill and I, but it's my trip. It's a baseball trip. So if you have any suggestions.
So I don't know what all's changed since COVID, obviously. But like Quincy Market, if you haven't been there, that's just a cool spot to go.
Yeah.
Obviously any tourist type thing, they want to go to Cheers.
I've been there already.
Yada, yada, yada.
Give me the good stuff, bro. Give me the good stuff.
But I mean, around Fenway, I mean, there's a dozen really cool, bars just
right outside,
literally right around Fenway.
They get that cool store like right across from Fenway too.
Yeah,
that's where I bought like all my Green Monster stuff, the Green Monster shirt.
Yeah, I forget what because they don't. It's not called Yawkey Way anymore. They changed the name of the row of the street a couple of years ago.
Oh.
So it was the Yawkey Way store. I don't know what the store is called. It might just be called the Red Sox team store.
Why'd they change the name?
I guess basically because Tom Yawkey was a bigot.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, big time.
Sorry, that's right. I forgot about that.
But I forget what the name of the street is now.
Interesting.
Irrelevant. But yeah, I mean, just anything right around that Fenway area is so cool. And again, I mean, it's been several years since we've been there, so I don't know what all's changed since COVID, what might have closed during COVID, what's still open, what's changed ownership. So I mean, it's been, man, I'm trying to think. It might be going on 10 years since I've been to Fenway Park.
It's been 10 years.
Very close.
Holy crap, dude.
Yeah.
That's like almost, like, that's just, what do you call that? Sad.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, you're on a great trip right now. Don't get me wrong.
Oh yeah.
But like, I know you're a baseball fan.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's I think 2013 was the last time we were.
They won the World Series that year, didn't they? That's right.
Yeah. And it was. I mean, with running the complex and we were up here, like it was just tough for me to get away. So, yeah, I want to say 2013, maybe 14 was probably the last time that we were up at Fenway. So I'm sure a lot has changed since then. But
what's your
take
favorite?
It all in. Just take it all in.
I do. I want to, because I always, you always watch movies with the Red Sox in it, and everybody's always outside partying beforehand, chilling, hanging out. One of my favorite movies is Fever Pitch.
It's a good movie.
I mean, I know people might think like it's a rom-com, but I'm like,
cool.
It's corny, but take away the love part of it, and I would do everything he does. I just happen to have wife, and then kids now.
Right.
Now, if I was single and had nothing to do and had the money, everything he did, I would do.
Yeah.
It would just be the Mets.
Yeah.
Everything he did, I was like, this is brilliant. I'm like, how do you fault this guy? I know exactly how he's feeling right now.
When she goes into the bathroom and he's got the Yankees toilet paper and
the Red Sox curtain, the towels. Like even when
well, that was my basement, as you know.
Yeah, man. I mean,
in my basement, that was it.
My office, used to look like that. But even that scene when he gets, when he freaks out because he missed the comeback when the Red Sox beat the Yankees, and he was like, he kind of like took it out on like. I unfortunately am responsible for one of those freakouts towards my wife. I'm not proud of it. But this play, and they've been showing it on TV because I guess it was the anniversary of it when Luis Castillo dropped that pop-up and the Yankees won. Yeah, that wasn't a good night in my house, man. That wasn't. My wife was like, wow, But I've since apologized and done many things to apologize for that.
There you go.
Now, what's your favorite? What's been your favorite park, dude? Like Fenway aside. And what's funny is Citi Field's not my favorite park. I can't say that. If you said Fenway, I wouldn't blame you because I've been there for tours. It's freaking legit. I mean, it's the shit. But maybe other than Fenway, what's been your favorite spot?
So before I answer that, I'll just tell you a funny story about Fenway because it is my favorite park. And I actually, because so many people ask me, how a guy who was born and bred in Reading, Pennsylvania, become a diehard Red Sox fan.
Okay, yeah.
And when I was a kid, before I ever played baseball, like my brother had this book of all the stadiums, and Fenway Park completely mesmerized me. Like just I would go back to, the 2 pages of Fenway Park and just the dimensions and the green monster, and I was just totally mesmerized by it. And then my first year playing Little League Baseball, the first team I ever played on was called the Red Sox. And my brother said to me, that's the team that plays in Fenway Park. Like, I didn't even put the two together. And from that moment on, I was a diehard Red Sox fan. Now, they broke my heart the next couple of years. It's the mid-'70s. They started right out of the gate, started right out of the gate in 75 and then just kept going until 04. So I loved Fenway before I even loved the Red Sox. So, yeah, it's definitely my favorite park. But second favorite, I would have to say would be, I think Camden Yards.
I love Camden Yards.
So
dude.
cool.
And really, is that place?
Really changed ballparks forever.
Yes, it did.
I mean, at that point,
pretty much the model for everything.
Yeah, it was still the riverfronts and the Three Rivers and the vets and all that sort of stuff. And man, like they did it right. And everybody followed. Everybody
did.
Because again, they got away from that. Everything was 330 down the lines, 410 in center, 370 in the power alleys. And I was like, wait, let's add a weird curve here, add this and that. So yeah, that's probably number 2. I haven't seen a game in Minute Maid, but that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I hear
too.
It's cool there.
That's pretty cool.
That's Minute Maid is the Astros.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I hate that they took off that thing in the back.
I know.
What's it called? The berm? Right?
Yeah. I was curious how they ever got away with it. That the Players Association didn't just red flag that thing from day one.
But how many cool plays happened on there?
So many cool plays.
Yeah, dude. So it's weird, but man, the footage from that thing was amazing, dude.
Yeah, it was cool. And one of my old players is actually the assistant GM for the Astros now. So we got a pretty special tour of Minute Maid when we were in Houston this past winter. So that was cool, and I just can imagine what it's like to see a game there as well.
Yeah. So what do you think about those Astros though?
He wasn't there, just for disclaimer. My former player was not there during the trash can incident, but it's like a double-edged sword. You can't introduce technology into the game the way it is nowadays and expect that someone's not going to try to use that to their advantage. So. Honestly, it's really tough for me to watch Major League Baseball anymore, just in general. And I think you and I talked about this at
the new changes.
With the changes and the pitch clock. I mean, it's tough. And just all the differences in the technology and stuff. I think it takes, again, being an old school guy and kind of a guy who really liked old school baseball, like the plays at the plate, where they're putting runs on the board because the catcher, I was a catcher, and that's the way you were taught was, to drop your shin guard on the plate, block the plate. And,
baseball.
Now all that stuff's going away. So it's actually really difficult for me to watch Major League Baseball right now. But again, anytime you introduce that type of technology, you're going to have somebody who's going to, try to use it to their advantage. And, right, wrong, or indifferent, trying to get the pitcher's signs has been part of baseball since the beginning. I mean, people still say that Robbie Thompson's, shot were, heard around the world, that they were picking up field. They were picking up signs,
Yeah, Bronca swore by it that they freaking stole that.
So, it is what it is.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't mind you stealing signs, I guess. If you're stupid enough to not block it when there's a man on second and stuff like that, I feel like that's fair game.
Right. But when you add the technology,
you have to put a camera, you got trash cans. It's bro.
Yeah.
Come on. Yeah. And then, Altuve. I used to love Altuve, dude. I loved him. He's the same height as me, 5'6" when he's playing ball. Looks like a shrimp next to Judge. I loved his tenacity, how hard he played, and then him coming down third saying, "Don't rip off my jersey." I was like,
that definitely had a lot of red flags around it. A lot of red flags.
And he was so to say, he said, "My wife doesn't want me to take my jersey off." I'm like,
yeah, you could have came up with something better than that.
And it's funny because he's a Spanish guy, and I'm a Spanish guy, and I'm like, I probably would have used that as an excuse too. And that's terrible.
Had nothing to do with the buzzer on your chest.
No, that was so disheartening because I was like, come on, Altuve. Really, you weren't supposed to do that, bro.
Yeah.
But how do you feel about? So you don't like the rules either. How do you feel about the bigger bases?
Hate them.
How do you feel about the pitch clock?
Hate it.
How do you feel about both DHs now? Here we go.
That's a tough one. I mean, even though Red Sox being an American League team, I was never a huge fan of the DH in general because I think it took away some of that strategy.
Yeah,
do I leave my pitcher in? Do I take him out? Do I pinch hit for him? But then by the same token, you look at how many careers the DH saved. Guys who could play for another, 6-8 years because of the DH. I mean, Big Poppy being one of them.
I mean, we all love Big Poppy, man.
So I'm not 100% sure how I feel about the DH. Taking the shift away, I actually, even though I hated the shift, I just felt like just teach a guy to hit the ball the other way every once in a while, and that'll eliminate the shift.
That's all you had to do. Just hit it that way.
Yeah.
There's nobody there.
No one.
Or just bunt.
Yeah.
You'd be on base. I really never understood the whole, like why they didn't do that. Was it just pride? Was it ego?
I think it was pride. And, getting into the whole launch angle and, figuring, well, it doesn't matter if the shift's on if I hit the ball out of the park, Okay, what about the 70% of the time that you're going to ground into the shift?
Right. Exactly. That's a crazy thing. I mean, I remember growing up, baseball was all about, sacrifice and getting the run.
Yep.
I mean, that's what you did. You bunt, the guy walked, he stole second, you bunted him over. You hope for a hit, and the guy comes in or a pop up and he comes in to score.
Yep.
Like, it's baseball, and now it's weird because I saw a bunch of spring training games this year. I was fortunate enough to be in Tampa for a week, and I went to a few stadiums, and a lot of people weren't happy. Very weird. I still haven't been to a major league game this year. So I think we go next Wednesday. We will finally go to a game. But, yeah, it's weird, man. I mean, it's one of those things where, I don't know. They're like, oh, we have to speed up the game. We have to do this. We have to do that. But the weird thing I should say is people that watch baseball don't ever complain.
Doesn't matter.
So, like, why are you messing with things, like even like the NFL. The NFL did all those crazy changes with the clocks and this and that. And I was always just like, I guess. I mean, sometimes you just need to leave things alone.
Yep.
They just don't know when to say when.
Yeah. And even the NFL, I mean, you're still looking at a 3-hour game, and you don't hear people complaining about that.
Nobody cares.
And
it's a party.
Like I said, true baseball fans. I mean, I think if Major League Baseball really wanted to address their declining fan base, it's like make players accessible again. Like just make players accessible. I mean, and I completely understand why you got netting, surrounding the entire dugout to dugout now. But even that alone, like just created another barrier between fans and players, especially like at spring training, because that was the time where as a kid you could get autographs and stuff like that. And I think if you just figure out a way to, and again, not for old guys like us, but players accessible to kids, like you're going to get a lifelong fan. If a kid spends 5 minutes, not even 5 minutes, with Mike Trout or somebody like that, I was never a boxing fan growing up, but I remember one time I met Larry Holmes.
Right on.
And like just was now a Larry Holmes fan for whatever reason, even though I barely ever watched boxing, because he was just so cool and just, in that moment, was larger than life. So I think if you figure out a way to make that happen again, to make the players more accessible, especially to the younger generation, you're going to get fans for life.
Absolutely, because I'm a lifelong fan of Kelly Gruber. Guy played on the Blue Jays. It was a game at Shea. It was exhibition, of course, because back then we didn't mix leagues.
Right.
And the Blue Jays were there. And I remember bringing all my 87 and 88 tops in my pocket. And I knew the Blue Jays were there, so we waited outside afterwards at the bus. Nobody came off. Not one single Blue Jay except Kelly Gruber.
Yeah.
And he came off that bus, and he spent time with every kid, signed my baseball card, still got it. I'll always remember that guy. I'll always remember his name. Played for the Blue Jays. That stuck with me forever, man. Him and Dave Magadan. I met Dave Magadan when I was a kid. And those, technically those guys are, just regular baseball players. Yep. But that's how, it's true, man. That's how you change things. The kids first. That's why I love, like McCutcheon. I loved it when he was on the Pirates before this go around. And he gave those two kids in the stands like his gloves. And they were so excited. Yep. Then there's a video of the one kid, which he wasn't even a young kid. He was like maybe early teens. And he met Mike Trout, started crying. His dad was hugging him. Yeah. And I was like, people just don't understand, dude. Like, baseball's not just a game. Yeah. At least for men. I mean, not that it's not for girls or anything or women, but like, it's like Field of Dreams. Hey, Dad, you want to have a catch? That's a big deal. Yep. And a lot of people just don't understand that. And I don't care how many sports they create, bro. Baseball. Yeah. It's America's pastime.
There's a romantic side of baseball.
Yeah.
which again I think only the true fans appreciate. And it's like when you talk about the time and the pitch clocks and that sort of stuff, like a true lover of baseball, it doesn't matter, because again, if you're on a date with your wife, like you're not looking to get out of there in 2 hours, like you want to spend as much time as you want with her.
Absolutely.
So it's so crazy. And you talk about Field of Dreams. That's a spot we've been to. And
how's that?
It's magical. Like it literally is magical. Like it's just again, hard to put into words, but there is a sense of magic out there. We were there in September of 2021, and it was amazing. It was absolutely. Actually, I lied. It was late August. We were there, but it was hot as could be. But
it's hot.
Other than that, it was awesome. So it was right after the first big league game that they'd played out there.
Yeah.
So they were still, because they tear that stadium down after the game. Everything's gone other than the light standards and the dugouts. Like
so they take
the
it
bleachers,
apart.
They take it apart.
Wow.
So like we saw trucks, coming out and carrying the bleachers and everything out of there. So it was pretty wild. And maybe it's different now. Maybe they still leave more of it up, but at least then they were completely breaking the stadium down, and then they would rebuild it for the following year, because it was it's a small town, so there's a little bit of kickback locally, where it's like you're taking this away from the beauty of the original field. You're kind of commercializing it, sort of thing. So again, it's been a couple of years, so maybe it's changed and they leave more of it up, but at least back then they tore the whole thing down, and then the only thing that was there were the light standards all year long in the dugouts. Yeah,
baseball is man, you just don't get it. If you're not a fan and you don't love it, you'll never understand it. And I don't expect you to understand it. And I mean, I'm literally like basing my life around visiting every stadium, checking out minor league games when I can. Even Charleston, like it was like our last night there, and I think my wife understands it a lot more now than maybe back in the past, because I was like, she told me there was a game playing, and she kind of knew, and I was trying not to go because it was like our trip. I didn't want to be that guy,
right?
And I was like, screw it. I was like, you want to go catch that game? And she was like, yes, because she knew I wanted to go. She's awesome like that. And it was great. It was the River Rats. Found out that Bill Murray owns the team, the River Dogs. That's right. He does. But a river dog is a rat. I found that from the tour. They're like, yeah, we call them river dogs. It's really rats. They're not dogs. Right. That's what they call a river dog, apparently. So they had big rats at some point in Charleston.
That's funny.
Yeah, so it was cool, man, to watch that. And but Field of Dreams, I mean, I took Ange to go see that movie when he did like that 25th or 30th anniversary showing. And Ange was like, I know why you like this movie, Dad. Yeah. She finally got the, I feel like I had to just go with her and watch it. But I don't know, man. I don't know how you can't be romantic about baseball.
We've driven by and got out and seen more ballparks than we've actually gone to games in our since we've been traveling, which is pretty cool. Like I had no idea. I don't know what it's called anymore. Whatever Miller Park is now. American Family Park or something like that. So they've actually got a little league field in the parking lot where home plate is in the exact same spot as what it was in County Stadium.
Oh, nice.
And I was actually more mesmerized by that than, again, I'm still going to call it Miller Park, whatever it is. So like I walked around there and I was just like, man, I wonder if like a kid gets it. Like when he's standing there at the plate, that he's literally standing at the same spot that like Robin Yount stood at, and it was cool because they had a lot of history of County Stadium around this little league field. But again, just to be a kid and to play a game in the shadow, I mean, literally in the shadow of a big league park like that is just mind blowing. I mean, that's stuff that, I mean, you and I mean, we were playing on, fields filled with stones and a little bit of dirt.
I was in Queens. I played in the street, man.
Yeah, so little bit of grass here, a little bit of grass there, a lot of dirt in between, broken glass probably.
Yeah, more of that. And pavement, that's what I had. I had pavement, and we used weird objects for bases.
Yeah.
You know, that's why, man, I could talk to you all day about baseball.
Yeah.
I love baseball.
I mean, even like when we, when we first built Charlie Wagner Field out at the complex, we did an event with the Major League Baseball Alumni Association, and so a lot of big leaguers came in, and I'll never forget this moment in my entire life. But Andy Ashby, like, he came walking down our walkway, and he saw our version of the Green Monster, and like literally looked like a 7-year-old kid, like running up to the backstop and taking pictures of it. And I did a podcast with him for Big Vision Foundation at the time, and I said, look, I saw that when you came up, like what was going through your mind. He's like, well, it brought me back to the 99 All-Star game that I played in, and again, anybody that knows baseball knows that was an iconic All-Star game when they rolled Ted Williams out, and just
every
all those
man
guys
was crying in the country.
Yeah, so it's like to think that something that we had built here in Berks County took a big leaguer, big league all-star, guy who's at the top of his game, back to that moment in his career was pretty special. So that's what makes me think, kids nowadays, when they get some of those opportunities to, again, play in the shadows of a major league park or some of those experiences they get now, I hope they appreciate it. I really hope they appreciate it. So it's pretty cool. And again, that's the beauty of baseball, where it can literally transport you, back in time. It's like music, So
maybe that's why I love it so much, because I love music. Yeah, I've been getting into music a lot more lately. I feel like I'm trying to let go of stress and anxiety, and I'm trying to relive I made myself I told myself this year I was going to create a top 100 list, right? And I gave myself rules where I said, okay, you're going to pick your top 100 songs that you love. But these songs, they only make the list if, as you're building it, when you hear it come on the radio, or when you hear it come on shuffle, or when you press play, you don't want to change it. And because I put that little stipulation in my mind on it, I've already had to remove songs. Yeah. Because I'm like, well, if you ever feel like you want to skip this song, then it's not really your top 100.
Right.
So I've been going through all these songs, and I'm only up to 20-something, I think. But my goal is to have the 100, make sure it's a legit 100, and then I want to make it autobiographical, as almost as a homage to High Fidelity, that movie, which was, because when Jen Cusack was talking to that dude, and he was like, I'm setting him up autobiographical, and he was like, oh my goodness, and I was like, that's what I want to do. So I want to do that, and it's crazy, man, because I'm listening to these tunes, and I'm like, just taking me back to just different times of my life. And even earlier, we were doing a flow about immortality. For some reason, these past maybe couple months or so, I've been just thinking about death and life, and where my family's at, my parents are at, where I'm at, and you just you try to just the music connects it, and movies will do that. Mm-hmm. And for me, baseball, because of where that was in my life, and it gets crazy, man. Music is Jesus, man, music's a soundtrack to your life.
Sure is.
And even I even tell Jo, I was talking to her about movies. She's like, why do you like watching old movies? And I remember telling her, I'm like, when movies, they're like our archives to life. Because I told her sometimes I like watching even movies like Dog Day Afternoon, Pacino. Yeah. But I don't watch it for the storyline as much as I watch it for the cars and the people and how they treated each other. And I was even look at the pizza boxes. People don't remember, or I don't know if they've even experienced, in New York City back in the day, the pizza boxes were thin cardboard. Mm-hmm. It wasn't that new cardboard. Right. It was that really super thin, flimsy stuff. Yeah. And I'm like, I guarantee that's why today pizza doesn't taste as good delivered, because all the steam gets stuck in the cardboard and it gets all weird and moist. Yeah. And the boxes back then were so thin, it was impossible. They weren't even sturdy. They were flimsy as shit. Yeah. And I was just, I don't know. It's a weird thing I'm into.
Yeah. No, I love that. And, like trying to come up with your 100 favorite songs, like is probably very similar to us trying to figure out our top 10 favorite spots,
Yeah.
you know, because there's so many, and they, you know, music does absolutely transport you. You know, and I think, you know, so many times you'll just hear a song that'll come on and like, wow, you know, and you go back and think of something that happened while that song was playing in the background or whatever the case is. So, yeah, it's magical in that case. And I've been able to, I'm going to say probably, I don't know, 8 to 10 musicians I've been able to interview on the podcast, and talking music is just incredible. And again, hearing how, you know, how it played parts in their lives, and you know what their musical influences were, and stuff like that has been pretty cool. So yeah, we're very similar in that regard.
It connects people.
Yep, and you know, baseball's the same way. And I think, you know, I heard a quote one time where they were saying if you could have put Fidel Castro and George W. Bush in a room and said, hey, just talk baseball, they'd walk out of there being best friends. You know,
so true.
And it's like you can just drop everything else, you know. And again, music's the exact same way. You know, it's an international language.
Well, music was the bridge between me and my dad. And I don't even think my dad knows this. I don't like telling my parents a lot of things because I don't want them to feel like they were bad parents. You know, I don't want to do that. But like, you know, when you grow up and you're a teenager, you don't get along with your parents too well. You're stubborn. My dad was a stubborn man. I'm a stubborn man. And we were just like, you know, just always at each other's, you know, just didn't get along for a little while there when I was a teenager. But then there was this one day we're in his blue van and he was driving. I don't know where we were going, what we were doing, couldn't tell you. And Hotel California comes on. And I like the song because I was actually playing it with my buddy Jim in his house in the basement. And we would just jam on that song. Nowhere near like the Eagles sounded, but we just had fun.
Right.
And then my dad starts singing and I'm singing along with the song because I know it. And he like jacks up the volume a bit. I'm telling you, I can see this whole thing in my head. And that was the first time we like connected was through the Eagles, Hotel California. And I always say to myself, ever since that point in time, everything's been fine.
Yeah.
And got better. But, you know, because my dad hated what I listened to and I couldn't stand what my dad listened to because my dad grew up on Spanish music and like disco. You know, I was like, ugh, you know what I mean? And I was growing up on like, you know, my uncles got to me, so I had like Slayer and Metallica. Right. My dad's like, what is this crap coming out of my son's bedroom, you know? But the Eagles, man. And I always say like that was the moment me and my dad connected. And then REM's Losing My Religion. My mom and I went to like a senior school trip for like 8th grade back then, or an 8th grade trip, whatever. They took us to Rye Playland, you know, in New York. And, you know, we stood with the people for the first half of the day. Then everybody did lunch, and then me and my mom just kind of like left them and said, all right, we have to be at the bus at this time. Forget everybody else. Right. So we actually went around by ourselves and did rides and stuff. And we went on this one ride, and they played that song. So it was like we were just like laughing in this little car, just going in this like ride, you know, and that was just like a cool memory for me to. So like those two songs are like on my 100 playlist for, you know, monumental reasons.
Yeah.
But that's how awesome music is.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's incredible. And there's even been times, even with our travels, where, you know, again, we're on random play and a song comes on that like fits the moment we're in, you know, incredibly. So yeah, it's pretty cool for sure.
Yeah, Arizona, I feel like our love for country came out of Arizona. We went to Arizona for a week. We kind of got into country at like Sandals because they had like a country night. We were like, this isn't so bad. I wonder why we didn't like country for so long.
Right.
Then we go to Arizona on this trip. We go to like Phoenix and Sedona, and we just started putting on like the country channel. And yeah, dude, now we're just like, well, I wouldn't say we're hardcore, but man, there's a lot of shows we're going to this year.
Yeah,
you know, country artists. So
yeah,
that's cool.
Music, and it's storytelling. You know, that's what I love about like folk music and country music. Is it's literally storytelling. You know, and obviously being a storyteller myself, it's something I can relate to. Not a musician. I tell people, you know, I play the harmonica, probably badly if I had to, you know, judge myself. But you know, I'll always wish I had a bass guitar when I was a kid. Played it badly for a little while. Finally gave it to my nephew, who's an incredible musician. Anything with strings on it, he can figure out how to play it. Self-taught, and really, really good guitar player. But yeah, it's still like just that connectivity of music is incredible. And you mentioned Sedona. That's definitely a place on our top list as well. I mean, that's just an incredible spot to go to. Sedona.
Yeah, that was different, man. I don't like Phoenix. I'm not gonna lie to you. It's too hot.
Yeah, it's a city.
Hot.
You know, it's a city, and it's unlike like New York and LA. I mean, because it's like spread out. Like it's just you know, and they all kind of like you never know. Like, all right, am I in Phoenix now, or am I in Scottsdale? Am I in Surprise? Like it just all blends
I just knew
together.
It was hot, bro. It was hot.
Yeah. Although we did go when we were in the outskirts of Phoenix, we went to see an Arizona Fall League game, which was pretty cool.
It's cool.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah, I saw the Diamondbacks when I was there. Knocked it off my list.
Yeah.
Interesting. All the seats are turned towards home plate.
Huh.
In Chase
I
Field.
think I did hear that once before.
Yeah, you sit down and you're like whoop, automatically you're turned that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It was a cool park. I mean, it was cool. You know, it was cool. I was there. You know, it's like Angels. Like I went to Anaheim once. I was like, it was cool. But I loved Cleveland.
Yeah.
I don't know what it was about Cleveland. I loved it. I just dug the vibe, but I like Cleveland. It's a cool town.
Did you go to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
Hell yeah, I did.
Overwhelming to me, actually.
Yeah, I could have did like 2 days.
Yeah.
Easy.
I mean, we were up there, and there's just so much. Now, even cooler, in my opinion, than the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame was the Woodstock Museum. So
I didn't see that.
Definitely got to put
that was
on
there?
the list. No.
Okay.
It's in Woodstock. It's
where that makes sense.
Yeah, where
right.
not Woodstock, but whatever the town was.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
So I guess that was 2020 as well. We were on our way up through New England, so pretty much going right through the old site. And at that point, I had no idea there was a museum. You know, just doing a Google search, knowing that we're nearby, and it's like, oh wow, this is pretty cool. And during COVID, I went on this like weird little tangent of watching Woodstock documentaries.
Okay.
So there's even this like cooler connection of Woodstock itself. So to get to the actual festival grounds and see what it was like was pretty cool. But you can do like an automated tour where you walk around. You know, you can stand where the stage was, and you're holding an iPad, and you can look out at what the crowd was like then, and where the vendor area was, and it was so cool. And the museum itself was top notch. And what's amazing is like that whole thing was, the fact that it holds such a significant place in our history is amazing, because it was a shit show. When you get right down to it. I mean, they had to change locations 2 weeks before the event or 3 weeks before the event. Just they didn't have near enough porta potties for the crowd. They were expecting like 50,000 people, and 500,000 show up. You couldn't get through, the New York throughway there. It was incredible. They're flying bands in because they were stuck in traffic. Richie Havens ended up opening Woodstock, and I think originally it was supposed to be the fourth guy to go on, but no one else was there. So, they're like half hour, 40 minutes behind schedule, and they finally go to Richie, like, Richie, we need you to, start playing, or the crowd's going to get uptight, and he's like, I'm not playing. Like, I'm fourth, And they finally convinced him, and it was supposed to be a 45-minute set, and I think he played for like 2.5 hours.
Wow.
And, finally, because he'd come off, they're like, nobody's here, we need you to go back out. He did that like 3 times and came off the final time, and they're like, we need one more song from you. He's like, I've played every song I know, like all my original stuff, every cover I know, like I've played it. Like, we need something. And I don't know if you're familiar with the song Freedom, which is probably Richie Havens' most popular song, but he actually ad-libbed that at Woodstock. So he went back out for that last song, and there's like a long guitar intro. He said he just started playing those chords and was trying to figure out what to sing. And he said as he looked out on this sea of people, the first words that came to his mind were freedom. And that's why, you know, the song starts off with him just singing freedom, like, 5 or 6 times before he could figure out what the rest of the lyrics were going to be. So he literally ad-libbed it at Woodstock out of necessity.
That's cool.
So, yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Well, Dan, thanks for taking the time today, dude.
You bet.
That was cool. I love it. I love these because you go in thinking it's going to be about being on the road and stuff, and it's baseball and it's music and
all
it's
kinds of stuff.
Freaking awesome, dude. Hey, man, listen, let me know the next time you're in town.
We will.
I know you're going to be gone for a minute, and we'll do it again. Let's talk more music next time.
Absolutely.
I want to do that.
Well, maybe we can do that on my show.
Hey, let's go. You let me know when, man.
All right.
I'm ready to go. Thanks, brother.
Thanks.
Hey, thanks for checking out this episode of Fred Talk. Visit us online on fredtalk.tv and make sure you like this video and subscribe and check out these playlists and all these other crazy videos McCookie wants you to watch. And don't forget, your Uncle Freddie loves you. Peace.